Hello folks, I've got a little gem for you today based on the culture and history of the Canary Islands. This week here in Tenerife, the people are celebrating a victory from 220 years ago when one of the greatest admirals on the seas attacked Tenerife for the British Crown, with the full expectation that he would take the island in a matter of hours. They had on the boat they had the flag unfurled, ready to hoist that same day. This was Horatio Nelson. So when Horatio Nelson and his troops arrived, they expected to not have too many problems overtaking and subduing the Spanish to then take Tenerife. They depended a lot upon the element of surprise, of course, which was a very important strategy, especially in those days. Now, the thing was, the British sailors were in for an unpleasant surprise when they got here, because in spite of all their very carefully planned secrets, because they were trying to keep them secret at all times, they found that the Spanish seemed to be one step ahead of them all the time. Whenever they arrived somewhere, oftentimes before dawn, where the local people would normally have been asleep, people were up and ready and waiting, aiming guns from their balconies at the troops and shooting them and killing many of them. After a few days of this quite intense fighting, to everyone's surprise, the British failed to take Tenerife, and Nelson lost a lot of troops and also his right arm in the process. This arm, I believe, was lost through a cannonball shot from a now famous cannon, which is still to be seen and visited in Santa Cruz, still in perfect condition. It's called the Tiger Cannon, and there will be a lot of people visiting that city and admiring the cannon over the next week. Quite morbid admiration there. So my little angle on this is Nelson, I believe, never really got over this defeat. He was kind of a little bit peeved by it all his life, probably partly because he couldn't figure it out. It didn't make sense that with all their plans for surprise attacks and moving fast and before the crack of dawn and all these strategies that had been tried and tested and always worked until now, all of a sudden the enemy seemed to know their every move, and nobody could figure it out until now. I believe I figured out the reason why the British lost and the Spanish won in that small battle of Santa Cruz, as it's known as. And the explanation is that the Spanish cheated. They played unfairly. They used a trick that nobody else had. It was like a secret weapon. It was more like a very unique strategy which they used, which nobody knew about and which nobody appeared to know about for many years afterwards. It didn't occur to anybody. I'm quite amazed that this has not been spotted. For me, it's just so obvious. For me, the Spanish used a system whereby they could relay messages faster. In those days, to relay a message in war, generally what you had to do, if you wanted to get, for example, troop reinforcements from, say, another town or another area or whatever it is, generally you would have to displace one man to go to one place to give that message one time, and then that man or another man could go to another place to give that one message in another place. That's how it worked most of the times. One man on horseback or running or by whatever means he could. There was also the option of pigeons in very, very limited circumstances. That did not apply to Tenerife and 90% probably of warfare situations. What the Spanish did in 1797, I believe the year was, when Nelson attacked Tenerife. The Spanish cheated in this battle because they used a system for sending messages which, instead of having to displace one man to one place to give that message to that place and then displace that man or another man to another place to get reinforcements, to get people prepared and troops prepared, the Spanish had a way of sending one message to many areas without moving any men. They could send this message from the spot and be picked up in many areas immediately. And this unfair system, this cheat which the Spanish used in the Battle of Santa Cruz, is called the Canary whistle language, whereby the people in Tenerife, for example, when they saw the British boats, when the British boats first came over the horizon towards Tenerife, practically everybody was asleep, except for 3 or 4 people, it was reported, along the beach. I don't know if it was in Candelaria or in Santa Cruz, and these people were picking sea urchins for food, for example. And the troops didn't pay them much attention because they disappeared fast, and they sneaked up to wherever they were going, expecting to surprise the natives, and there the natives were ready and firing at them. Well, what obviously happened is that these people, these 1 or 2 people or 3 or 4 people, whenever they saw the British moving, they sent out a message by whistle, because most of the people in Tenerife, most of the natives in Tenerife in those days could communicate through whistling language, and the whistle, when sending a message, can travel to a mile or so and cover a large area, because everybody in its scope of hearing who understands the whistle language gets the message. So for example, those people picking sea urchins on the beach could very easily have said, whistled up to the city, be careful, get ready, wake everybody up, the British are coming. And then the people in the town who were awake would have woken the others and sent the message further afield, for example into the countryside, up to the hills and mountains. Let's say, for example, one of them sends a whistle to his cousin. Hello, so-and-so, please hurry and bring me back the rifle I lent you a week ago to go hunting. We now need it to defend our city. So therefore, by the time the British arrived, maybe an hour later, maybe 2 hours later, maybe half a day later, whatever it was, depending on the circumstances, the Spanish were there, ready and waiting. They knew all about it. And the British couldn't figure out how. They kept ahead of them all the time. And as I say, Horatio went to his grave somewhat bitter over losing his arm and losing this battle, and he never knew why. And I now know why. The Canary whistle language saved the day for the Spanish. So there's your little scoop. Now let it be documented. As far as I know, nobody else has ever mentioned this, even thought of it. It hasn't occurred to anybody. I don't know how it occurred to me years ago. So here it is now documented that this is my clever idea. Okay folks, have a good one. Bye bye.